When is Kigiri returning to Watcher of Realms? We got a lot more information to help inform that news today. We don't have a hard date yet, but we can start actually making predictions. And I brought the one, the only, Kory War. How you doing, Kory?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. You ready to talk about this?
Absolutely. Have a lot of thoughts about this one.
That's why I messaged this to you. We've been talking about collabing for like a week, and I was like, this is gonna be a good video for you because I know you got thoughts on Kigiri.
Oh, dude, I need his A5, his A3. I need something, right?
Where's your Kigiri sitting at right now?
He's sitting at a lonely A1, but he's partnered with the A5 Wukong, so okay, something's not right.
I hear you.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
All right, well, let's get into it. I'm curious to hear about your interaction with viewers and players, but for me, this is the most asked question by literally a mile over the past maybe call it 2 or 3 weeks. I'd say I get 5 to 10 comments a day, and I get a couple DMs always as well. You getting a lot of chatter about Kigiri?
Absolutely. Ever since maybe the Wukong banner came out, people were starting to speculate, hey, where's Kigiri? Because they're almost viewed as a dynamic duo at this point for boss content and even arena content as well nowadays, with both single target and AoE arena featuring either one or the other.
It's a really good point, actually. I think, especially with Kigiri, I think he's kind of slept on that. He's good in AoE arena, meta in AoE arena, which is kind of you don't think of him as AoE, but actually the strike is AoE, and the scaling obviously with Kigiri is crazy. I just pulled up over here the world rankings, and it's obviously just the Kigiri show, and frankly, it's the minimum A3 Kigiri, basically A5 Kigiri show. So maybe let's start with that, and then we're going to get into lots of predictions and timing. I guess in case people are going to be like, why don't you get to it? We can guarantee he's not coming for 3 weeks. We can hard guarantee that. We'll both explain why in a bit. But maybe I can hand it over to you now. Why is Kigiri the hype to end all hypes in the game? I feel like he's a bigger hype at this point than an Ingrid, than a Praetus, than a Wukong, and I honestly think with good reason. You want to tell the viewers a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So whenever Kigiri first came into the game, he was a decent unit, but we didn't understand all the ways that we could go ahead and use him. APOC 2 was out, and then we didn't have Abyss 1 out. So he was kind of slept on overall. Now when we have APOC 2, we have Abyss 1, we have this AoE arena setting where he has the ability to thrive significantly because we're looking at longer form battles, and his sweeping strike, amber strike tend to do a significant amount of damage, especially when paired with Torador, for example, getting those double procs, or even Ingrid, which is also kind of rising in meta with Abyss 1. That Watcher bonus that kind of clicks in every couple of seconds, he starts to do devastating amounts of damage to not just one unit, but multiple units based on his sweeping strike, ember strike. So he's really just rising in popularity, also because people are dumping in their soul stones into him. Yeah. So getting that A1 that used to be really popular is now people are having A5 because they've just dumped all their stones into him, or even just summoned a significant amount on his banner if they were lucky.
Yeah, I think you hit every key point there, and then at the end you talked about soul stones, which is that's what transformed Kigiri. There really were two things at play. We always knew Kigiri was cool. The second he came out, watch any video, anyone that was covering the game, look at any Discord post if you want to go through Discord history. Everyone was saying he's the definition of a must pull. But the reason he was the definition of a must pull is because he was a really cool faction combination. He was the first ever, it's funny to think about this now, he was the first ever Watcher Nightmare fighter. Now, obviously, Wukong came in as the next limited, and he was only, if we take a look here, he was one of the only Watcher fighters in the whole game. He was before Callista, he was before Wukong, he was before Eris. It's a long list. He was before, it was him, Dallin, and Cyrene. So for those reasons, and then of course the fact that he became the best dispeller in the game, and at the time he was introduced, it was all about APOC 2 and Semra. Everyone's like, this is must pull. But it was never about his damage. And that's kind of with good reason in my opinion. Soulstones did not exist when Kigiri was released. They came out about a month later. So it was unthinkable that you were going to get more than an A1 Kigiri. The average player was going to get an A0. His A1's not that cool. Big picture now it is, but for a normal player, if you don't have an A3 higher, you don't care about the A1. It's just a step to get there, and then once you're there, it's really useful. And then no one except for a crazy whale would have been able to get him higher. You weren't going to put your polished soul stones in. However, shortly after they introduced Soulstones, and combine that with the fact that when they originally released him, this is a fun little war history fact, some people know it, but this was a complete disaster. His A3 was not, it was completely mistranslated. It's written correctly now, but we had no idea that once he's done his strikes, these boosts become permanent. We thought it was a singular one-off thing, but no, once he's done it in a fight, he has these permanent boosts for the rest of the battle, and that's why he transforms from a solid DPS, I'd say like a 6.5 out of 10 DPS, to when he's A3, probably a solid 9.5, and then when he's A5, he's the greatest in the game. And then, like you said, they introduce content with constant damage, and then it takes him to the next level. You don't have to, even when Kigiri came out, within a couple weeks, Wales were getting him to A3, not even A5, but A3, and you were seeing him rise up the Guild Boss 1 rankings. And you're like, how are they doing that? And it's like very strategic, nice timing, good rage regen cycling to get him doing his Ember Strike. If he's ulting and he has hit within the first 3 seconds, he does the much better version, right? But it was like this weird timing. It wasn't conventional, and most people didn't have A3, so who cares? In steps Abyss 1 with getting damage all the time. You can just spam that thing, and he just pops off, right? I mean, that's I have A0 Kigiri. I'm sitting on 4 Soulstones, so maybe we're gonna go straight to A5. We'll see. But I mean, we both know as well as anyone, right? Not having A0 Kigiri versus A3 Kigiri is probably the biggest awakening chasm in the game, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it feels criminal. And one of the cool things with Kigiri and utilizing his Ember Strike versus his Sweeping Strike is there's a lot of animations in the game that will actually go ahead and trigger a damage output, which you can actually capitalize on. For example, it's super funny, but whenever the boss in Abyss says it's promoting, right? You can actually use his ultimate, and then bam, it'll go ahead and do the Ember Strike instantly. So these little mechanics that are hard-coded into the game that you can take advantage of with Kigiri. Even if he's A0, you'll still get it. But A3, you start to feel the damage. A5, you start to see, because you're getting those more frequent triggers of his ultimate, continuously just scaling him. So, as you said too, right? The implementation of the unpolished soulstones really revolutionized how Kigiri functioned, because one thing that's always interesting is Kigiri came before Wukong, right? And so some people might have gone ahead and accumulated those unpolished soulstones and used them on Kigiri, and then later on we keep getting these new soulstones and we just got a Wukong banner. Then they pivoted over to Wukong. But Kigiri might have been the first choice for going ahead and getting those stones into, and just from there on he just became popular.
Yeah, no, really well put. And you're very right about those mechanics. There's a lot of funkiness in the game. I think anyone that's dove deep into it knows that. And like, that's a great example. Like, unnatural mutation is not going to be dealing damage. It's a transition period in how the dragon's able to deal damage, but the game registers it as a hit. So like, there's a million ways you can time him out to get the Ember Strike. And like you said, at the A3, as I mentioned, the damage boosts become permanent. But then at A5, each strike is a double strike. It guarantees the extra strike back. So he's just taken to a crazy level. So let's talk about the reason why people clicked on this video. When is Kigiri coming? Well, let me start off. I'll take the baton to kick things off here, and then we'll hand it over to you. But we had new news drop today about the Crawling Dark event. First off, very quick tangent. Can you believe they're running this for the 3rd time? This is the 3rd Crawling Dark event.
It's interesting to say the least. It's funny because I do feel like they're trying to push Falcia. They went ahead and made her an esoteric unit as well. They went ahead and gave her a rerun banner, then another rerun banner. There's something that they're trying to push, at least with her, maybe because of her aesthetic, or maybe she'll be usable in like Abyss 2 whenever it comes out. Who knows, right? But I can't believe it. I really can't.
Yeah, I guess the thing that for me, it's like, if they want to run her again, I am happy they're doing it, because she is really, people don't realize how good she is, because she's been buffed twice. The most recent buff was great, and I'm sure we'll both cover it a bunch this week. But the fact that they're running her event the 3rd time, like, I hope they change something. This is like as OG an event, this is the 2nd oldest event we've ever had in the game. It was like the Treasures Deep Reeve event. This is the 2nd ever event, and we're getting it a 3rd time. But in this, they packed a ton of information, and basically, I just posted a video on this. Have you posted a video about the new banners yet?
Nope, not yet. Tomorrow I will.
Tomorrow you will. So everyone look out for Kory's video tomorrow. This video is going to come out the night we're filming it. But I just posted a video people can watch as well. We know all the banners through... I'm going to move you for a second because I'm going to pull up my calendar. We know all the banners through this weekend, the weekend of the 27th, right? So basically, up until the start of July 1st, we have every banner, fully informed. Like, we're informed of every banner completely.
Yep.
Because of that, we know, well, none of those 2 weeks are going to be Kigiri, and it's truly unthinkable he could be 1 week after Falsia. That is like a line Moonton dare not cross. I will tell you, and this is where we can really get into it. They have run, do you know, they have run 2 limiteds 2 weeks apart once in the history of Watcher Realms. I went through every limited banner.
Dahlia and Nora.
Yeah. So they ran Dahlia on June 13th, 2024, and they ran Anora on June 27th, 2024. And that coincidentally, they ran the anniversary about 2 to 3 weeks earlier that year. So that's actually how they did it. They did Dahlia as like a run-up. I call it like an anniversary banner, but it was like a, an anniversary season, anniversary run-up hype banner. And that kind of feels like what they're doing with Falsia here. And then Anora was the kickoff to the anniversary, along with Ymeret and Valderon. Then we got Praetus. Then we got Ingrid to wrap the whole thing up. Don't you think it feels like that's what they're doing again here?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like a scheme at this point. Like, I'm expecting a double limited banner coming up sometime soon.
Without a doubt. So I would say they can always depart from their past patterns. But I would guess the earliest we'll see Kigiri, or I shouldn't even say Kigiri, because that's something we have to talk about. The earliest we'll see the next limited banner after Falsia would be 2 weeks after. Let me move you just once more. It would be 2 weeks after Falsia. So Falsia is coming on the 26th. That would be either the 10th or the 11th of July. And frankly, I think the latest they would do the next anniversary banner would be the week after that. So I think the way they've sandwiched in this Falsia banner, we know the next limited, whether it's Kigiri or not, is going to be arriving on like the 10th, 11th of July that weekend, or the 17th, 18th. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I think it's going to be the 17th, 18th. That makes the most sense.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
based on the schedule.
One other clue we have, they reached out to a bunch of creators about 2 months ago, maybe yourself included, and they said, how do you think the players would react to the anniversary actually being on the anniversary this year, which is the middle of July? They said, does the middle of the month work? Because last year they ran it about 2 weeks leading up to the anniversaries when Anora came. So that kind of is another breadcrumb that it might actually kick off, and that's probably how they would kick it off, is with a limited, just as they did last year, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It just makes the most sense. And I do think one of the things that's important is they just gave us some really good banners. Like, I know some people said these are skip banners, but they gave us some pretty good banners. They're going to run the Falsia event, which you're going to get summons for. And then they're probably going to wait a little bit so you can reaccumulate your summons. And then you have enough for Kigiri. We have seen very frequently Moonton likes to go ahead and give summons whenever we have these big events. So that's also a positive, in case you're wondering, like, oh, if I summon on Falsia, I will have no summons if Kigiri drops within the next 2 weeks. Moonton probably has it covered.
Yeah. Well, actually, so you touched on a few things there. One is perfect to wrap up this video, but I think we have to talk about one other thing before we do, and that is, will the next limited actually be Kigiri? So I actually think it's up in flux. I can see it both ways. I want to get your thoughts, but essentially, if you guys don't know, you can check out the dev Q&A. They have two kind of code words they use to talk about upcoming banners. So they'll highlight a hero. So like, when is the Kory hero coming? And if they say Kory's planned, they mean it's eventually coming. Like, they will rerun it, or they will do it. If they say scheduled, it means they have a date. And we've seen multiple examples of scheduled means the next week. We've seen the next 2 weeks, and we've seen a month later. Could it be more than a month? It's possible. They released this last week. So if that was to happen, it could be the exactly 2 week thing we're talking about, 2 weeks after the Falsia banner. I could also see it being one after. I think it's unlikely. Like, I think, would you agree? If I had to bet, I would think he's next, and I think he's 2 to 3 weeks after Falsia, right?
I would think he's next. However, don't hate me in the comments. I don't want him to be next. Oh, that's a whole other can of worms. Okay, well, I want to talk about that, but before we do, I want to say, if he's not next, how late could he be? So that's why I just moved you her final time, a third and final time. So if we're saying so right now we get Falsia on June 27th. If we're saying the latest we think the next limited would be, whether it's Kigiri or someone else, would be the 18th. The longest that I think they could go is 6 weeks. Which, guys, could be a while, right? 21, 1, 8, 15, 22, 29. We're talking end of August, beginning of September. I think you could lock that in, that sometime, I'd say the absolute latest would be like the weekend of September 5th. That'd be the latest you could see Kigiri. And I do think it's possible, though I think it's less likely. But I just want people to be prepared, because I there'd be pitchforks potentially from certain players, right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. They want their Kigiri. Oh, also, it's interesting to note, right, that Kigiri has become such a meta unit that it almost hurts your account if you were a newer player and you never went ahead and played to go ahead and get him, right? He is so pivotal. Unless you get Lucius, you're kind of locked out of APOC 2, right? And so I could definitely see them going ahead and running him on the anniversary. They're going to probably do a lot of promotion, a lot of hype. People are going to play the game, invest in the game, blah, 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 right? So he might be soon. It would make sense, right? Especially just because of how strong he is, how relevant he is. Also, he's one of the few Chinese-based heroes in the game, so that's also another boon for them. But yeah.
I mean, he's definitely Japanese based, wouldn't you say?
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ronin?
Yep.
Yeah.
Samurai. Yep.
Well, I got to push back on one thing quickly. Definitely you don't need Kigiri or Lucius. Like, Talon has an amazing Dispel. Lyra is a very good Dispel, and obviously Infernal's meta. But yeah, those are two really, really good ones. But what I would say is, so the argument against him being after Falsia would be, they want to build a huge, they call it the gala. That's what they call the anniversary. And they're going to want to build it as the biggest thing. And it was the biggest thing we'd ever seen last year until this most recent Frostfall Jamboree. And then whatever the heck the Till Kingdom Come was. I don't know why that was such a huge event, but it was. But now it's like the third biggest. I would think this will be the biggest event we've ever had. And you'd think every big event seems built around a limited, and almost always a new limited. However, if you were to build it around an old limited, it would have to be Kigiri or Dao Chan, I would say, because those are the two greatest heroes in the game. So for that reason, I think it's still really possible. It could be. I want people to prepare for two things, though. One, we already talked about. It might not be him because they might want it to be a new thing, or it might be him and a new thing.
Yes.
Which would be. I hope not, but that's something people should at least brace themselves for. All right. The final thought here, which you kind of touched on before, what would you suggest? Obviously, it's very account by account, player by player, but what do you suggest players do in terms of like their saving habits starting now? Because we have some big stuff coming without a doubt. And probably a ton of new content. We've heard a lot of rumors about a new class. I mean, obviously you're in a different kind of spending bracket and player tier bracket, but how would you advise the general player?
Yeah, so the general player, the player that's just starting to get into Watcher of Realms, I would strongly recommend, if you don't have Falsia, it's more than acceptable to go ahead and summon for. I would honestly argue, and I really believe this, whenever it comes to the second anniversary, we have seen that Moonton tends to go ahead and scale up the rewards that we get on these massive events, right? So Frostfall Jamboree was great. Till Kingdom Come, fantastic.
Insane.
Unequivocally the best event we've ever had. I think it would be interesting, to say the least, to scale down from that. So I think we can expect something relatively similar. So if you're a new player, you're more than welcome to go ahead and summon for your Falsia. I do think you'll have enough time to kind of pivot to go ahead and get your Kigiri. It might take a little bit longer. You might not get it on the first day of the event. I would go ahead and do that. If you are a experienced player and you're going for the Kigiri Awakenings, you can go ahead and obviously get the first copy. So you would save your summons, right? Because you might already have Falsia, save your summons, summon for Kigiri, and then try to just go as crazy as you can to get at least one extra copy so you can save that extra soul stone potentially. And then finally, if you're just like a whale and you already have a 5 Kigiri, I would go ahead and still summon for it, just because if you have multiple soul stones in them and you have decent book, multiple. It's usually always 3. It's always 3. You'll book him, use the additional summoned Kigiris that you got, or 1 Kigiri, and save the soul stone. But even then, that doesn't feel that good. And I would just say gamble. No matter what, summon. Absolutely. It's always a gamble with these limited heroes whenever they are on banner. 3,000 summons A1 Diaojian, for example, right? It can go like that.
It does.
So just be cautious.
Yeah, so what I would suggest to people is like you really hit it well, because like the Crawling Dark event's good. It's nothing like Frostfall Jamboree or Till Kingdom Come first gala, and certainly what the second gala will be. I think we can count on this. I think the second gala will be at a minimum Frostfall Jamboree. Like that's the lowest level they would go in terms of rewards. Yeah. But Crawling Dark's good. Like people come out with tens of extra summons and diamonds, right? We're talking 50 to 100 for the average player. So the only people that could get screwed if you're free to play and you're not a daily player, then I think you could skip Falsia and then just stock up the Falsia rewards and the Kigiri rewards. You'll definitely get your 200. Any daily player, you could come out of Falsia with next to nothing. And over the Kigiri event with Gala and whoever the next limit is, you'll get enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty important. I will say with Kigiri, and I'm glad you brought it up, a lot of players, if you want to be competitive and you're willing to gamble, you can totally go for dupes, but be prepared to pull 800 times after the guarantee and not get it, because that happens to a lot of people. Some of you will get really lucky. You'll have your friend Bob, and he pulled 4 copies and 500 pulls. Sick to be Bob, but like most of you know you won't be that. So I just try to be prepared for that, because as much as we all want to just unload on the spanner, like just be ready for disappointment potentially. I will say the multiple soulstones thing is really real. I think almost no one in this entire game has a natural A3 Kigiri, maybe a couple huge Krakens or something. Everyone has 3 to 5 soulstones into him. So I'm always of the opinion you can use your reset book if you're getting a lot back. But if it's just someone you're going to reset it and rebuild them, you better be getting a few back, like at least 2, if not 3. But if you're getting 3 back, I mean, that's pretty special. Also worth mentioning, we could think we're going to get a unpolished soulstone during this event. But yeah, I think that kind of takes us home here. So I'd say the earliest we'd expect Kigiri, again, guys, would be, we got to move you one more time, Kory, would be July where's here? Yeah, July the 10th or 11th. I think the most realistic would be the 17th to 18th. And just so you know, the absolute latest, we're talking beginning of September. Any final thoughts for the viewers here, Kory?
No, I've actually one final thought,
Please.
right? If you are going to go ahead and summon cautiously but optimistically, right? You can get multiple copies.
Sure.
It's definitely possible. Anniversary is a really good time because we get a lot of good content. We get a lot of interesting things. And then also don't forget, right? We have talent that's in the game that can be placed on both platforms and tile units. So just think, right? Something new in the future might be coming. Just be optimistic. Save at least a little bit of summons. I think Fasti always says it. About 175 is the metric that you want to kind of store just in case. So have your summons for your limited banners and then just kind of save a little bit on the side just in case something new comes out. And then also, if there's an ancient banner that you want to go ahead and summon on, don't care about what other people say. Summon because you like to summon.
Yeah, that's the point to end on, guys. Like, you can min-max the crap out of it. At the end of the day, there's always going to be some luck outside of your 200 guaranteed per banner. Have some fun. You have to summon on banners. You can't summon on nothing. If you only summon your 200 on each guaranteed, you're going to have thousands of leftover summons a year. So have some fun, guys. Enjoy the game. Thank you so much for joining me, Kory. I'll have Kory's link in the description and the top pinned comment. I've been Fastidious. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Share it with your mother. And we'll see you real soon. Bye.
See ya.
Fastidious.